There are cases that challenge everything we think we know about death. Cases that make us question whether the soul truly leaves when the body stops working. My name is Jonathan, and for 19 years, I prepared bodies for their final farewell. But there was one case, one that taught me body and soul don't always depart together. If you believe death is a simple process, that when someone dies, their essence fully moves on, you might want to stop listening now, because what I'm about to tell you will show that sometimes the soul refuses to follow the body. This is the story of Thomas Blackwood, the man who asked for the most ordinary funeral possible, yet whose soul chose to stay behind, and how I came to discover that some spirits have unfinished business that even death can't settle. Get ready to understand that death isn't always a goodbye. Sometimes, it's just a separation. It was August 2022. Thomas Blackwood, 58 years old, had died of a sudden heart attack in his law office. A respected man in the community, married for 30 years, with 2 grown children. His wife, Linda, came to the funeral home with very specific requests. Thomas was always a simple man, Linda told me, wiping her eyes with a tissue. He didn't want anything fancy. Simple casket, brief ceremony, cremation afterward. He made me promise it would all be normal, no fuss. It was exactly the kind of funeral we'd done hundreds of times a year. When they brought Thomas in, the first thing I noticed was how incomplete he seemed. Not physically. His body was intact, well preserved, but there was a strange feeling, like something was missing, as if only part of him had arrived. During the initial preparation, my instrument started giving off strange readings. His body temperature kept fluctuating, and his weight seemed to change with every measurement. It was as if Thomas only partially existed in our reality. But it was during the night that things truly became unexplainable. I was finishing the procedures when I heard a familiar voice. It was Thomas, speaking as if he were alive, but the words came from nowhere. "I can't go yet," the voice said, clear as if he were standing right beside me. "There's something I need to finish first, something I can't leave behind." I looked around the room. I was completely alone except for Thomas's body on the table. That's when I understood. Thomas Blackwood had died, but his soul had refused to leave. And until I found out why, neither of us would be at peace. In the days that followed, the manifestations intensified. Thomas wasn't just a voice. He began interacting with the physical environment. Instruments would move on their own, lights flickered in specific patterns, and I constantly felt a presence watching my every move. "You have to help me," Thomas said one night while I was working late. His voice sounded desperate, urgent. "There's a truth Linda needs to know before I can move on. A truth I've carried for years." I tried to ignore it, to focus only on my work. But Thomas was relentless. He told me details about his life that only he could know. Client names, private conversations, family secrets. It was clear this wasn't my imagination. "In my office," Thomas instructed me, "there's a file hidden behind the family photo. Linda needs to see what's inside. It's about the Peterson case, the one that destroyed an innocent family." Thomas explained that he had made a terrible mistake years ago. As a lawyer, he had mishandled a case leading to the wrongful imprisonment of an innocent man. The man died in prison, and Thomas carried that guilt in silence for over a decade. "I can't bear the thought of a family still suffering because of my cowardice," Thomas continued. "I need Linda to deliver the evidence to the authorities. I need the truth to come out, even if it shatters her trust in me." I realized Thomas wasn't held back just by guilt. He was bound by love. Love for justice, love for truth, and ironically, love for Linda. He wanted to protect her from shame, but knew he couldn't leave an injustice unresolved. The funeral was scheduled for Friday. It was Monday, and Thomas was growing more desperate by the day. "If I'm cremated before this is resolved," he begged me, "I'll be trapped forever, and Linda will understand why she sometimes feels my presence, why she sometimes hears my voice." By Wednesday, the situation had become critical. Thomas began manifesting physically, not just as a voice, but as a semi-solid presence capable of moving heavy objects. It was clear his anguish was intensifying his ability to interact with our world. "You don't understand," Thomas said, his voice now laced with despair. Every day I remain stuck here, every day the truth stays hidden. I become more anchored. If this isn't resolved before the cremation, I'll never be able to leave. That night, I made a decision that defied every ethical protocol of my profession. I decided to go to Thomas's office, find the evidence he mentioned, and find a way for Linda to uncover the truth. The office was exactly as Thomas had described. Behind the family photo, I found a sealed envelope marked Peterson Case, Suppressed Evidence. My heart raced as I looked at the contents, documents that definitively proved the innocence of the man who had died in prison. But how could I give this to Linda without revealing I had broken into the office? How would I explain that a dead man had guided me to this evidence? And more importantly, what would happen to my career if anyone found out? That's when Thomas appeared in the office, not just as a voice, but as a clearly visible, translucent figure. "Thank you," he said, smiling for the first time since his death. "Now you understand why I couldn't move on." "But how will you make sure Linda finds it?" I asked. Thomas replied, "Leave that to me. Now that the evidence is out of hiding, I can guide her here." I put the documents back in place, but left them visible. If Linda came to the office looking for anything at all, it would be impossible not to notice the envelope. On Thursday morning, I got a call I'll never forget from Linda. "Jonathan, something strange is happening," she cried. He's calling me. I hear his voice, asking me to go to his office to look for something important behind our family photo." "I know it sounds crazy," Linda continued, "but the voice is so clear, so real. He keeps repeating that I need to find something. It's about the Peterson case." My heart raced. Thomas had managed to reach her directly. An hour later, Linda called me again. This time her voice was filled with shock and horror. "I found it," she whispered. "I found what Thomas wanted me to see. Oh my God, Jonathan, what did he do?" Linda had discovered the evidence. She read through every document and understood the magnitude of the mistake Thomas had made and carried in silence. "He destroyed a family," she sobbed. "An innocent man died in prison because of him." But then Linda surprised me. "But I understand why he couldn't tell me. I understand why he carried this guilt alone, and I understand why his soul couldn't move on." She had realized that Thomas wasn't bound by cowardice, but by love. Love for justice and love for her. "I'm taking everything to the authorities today," Linda decided. "It's what Thomas wants. It's what must be done. He can't rest in peace knowing an injustice was left uncorrected." That afternoon, Linda went to the police. She handed over all the evidence, explained the situation, and asked for the case to be reopened. It became a scandal, a respected lawyer posthumously confessing to a mistake that had cost an innocent life. But that night, when I returned to the funeral home, I immediately felt something had changed. The heavy presence I had sensed for days was gone. Thomas was at peace. For the first time since he began speaking to me, Thomas appeared completely solid, fully present. "Thank you," he said, smiling with a serenity that radiated love. "Now I can go. Linda did the right thing, and the truth has been restored." The funeral went on as planned that Friday. Simple, ordinary, just the way Thomas had asked. But this time, when the body was cremated, I could tell the soul had gone with it. The sense of incompleteness had vanished entirely. Linda stood beside me throughout the cremation. "I can feel him leaving," she said, tears in her eyes. "For the first time since he died, I feel like he's truly free." And it was true. Thomas had finally found peace. 3 weeks later, the family of the man who had died wrongfully in prison received a significant settlement from the city. His name was officially cleared and his memory restored. The truth, though delayed by years, had prevailed. I received a letter from Linda a month later. She thanked me for being so understanding during Thomas's strange manifestations. She never knew I'd been more than understanding. I had been an active intermediary between worlds. That case completely changed my understanding of death. I learned that the soul isn't obligated to leave when the body dies, that unfinished business, unresolved guilt, and unrevealed truths can tether a spirit to this world. Thomas Blackwood taught me that sometimes our job goes beyond preparing bodies and organizing funerals. Sometimes we're here to help trapped souls find peace. Sometimes we need to be bridges between the world of the living and the world of the dead. If you've made it this far, if you're still with me after this confession, leave the word freedom in the comments, because some souls need our help to find their freedom. Some truths need to come out so the dead can finally rest. Remember, not every death is a complete departure. Sometimes body and soul separate, and it's up to us, the living, to help those lost souls find their way home. Thomas taught me that true love, whether for justice, for truth, or for family, can transcend even death, and sometimes the noblest souls are the ones who struggle the most to let go. Until the next confession, and may every trapped soul find the peace Thomas finally did.